Hey everybody, welcome back to Nerd News Today. I'm Matthew, and on this episode we've got a look at some new Dragon Ball figures from one of the recent movies. In the past, I've talked a lot about how I feel that these figures made by Bandai are one of the most underrated toy lines that are out right now, and I still hold that to be true, and I've looked at a lot of DBZ figures and other anime figures that Bandai has made over the past few years. And I think that this line that we're going to look at today is the best entry point that new collectors can get into with these Dragon Ball figures. And today we're taking a look at the Dragon Ball Super superhero movie figures. Now this is a 3-figure set that gives us Goku, Piccolo, and Gamma 1 in the awesome signature Bandai format. I can't wait to get these guys out of the packaging, but first things first, we gotta tell you a little bit about these boxes here, because they're still really nice also. So, this is the traditional style that you're getting in all the Bandai figures here. You've seen it for years, and I like it. I like the way it looks. Very striking packaging, really simple, cut to the chase, lets you know these are toys that are made to be played with, but you can still enjoy them as is. And I should add also, I'm one of these people out there who likes to get things autographed, and especially toys. I love to have my toys autographed by voiceover actors or celebrities or whatever. And the DBZ cast are no strangers to conventions, so if you want to get something that isn't a Funko Pop autographed, I think these toys are also very good and quite frankly, a lot easier to find than a good Funko Pop of like the DBZ characters. I'm not going to rant all day about this particular thing here, but if you go on Amazon to look for a Funko Pop of Goku or a Funko Pop of Vegeta, you're probably not necessarily going to find the version you want, and most likely you're going to have to end up just kind of settling on what's the cheapest and also fastest thing to get to you. But these action figures tend to be fairly plentiful, and there's so many variations of the main cast, and really even a lot of the sub-characters, that they're all quite honestly very affordable and not that hard to track down. So that's just one of the perks right there of these action figures. And the packaging too, it really lends itself to autographs. You can get it signed right in the plastic with a paint marker or right down here as well. So lots of spaces for autographs to happen. But yeah, the packaging itself is beautiful. I love how it looks. I also like on the sides how we have the characters, which in this case this is Goku, so we have Goku on each side. And on the back of the box here, again, really no frills. And when I say that, I mean there's no BIOS, no information on anything else, no information on even how to watch the Dragon Ball superhero movie. But what you do get are pictures of who else is in this set here, and that's the 3 characters I already mentioned. And that's partly why I spent so much time telling you guys about the autograph thing, because the packaging, well, yeah, while it's really pretty, there's not much to say about it. So, it's also really hard to balance these guys in this format, so I'm just going to hold our Goku, but not that that matters, because we're going to go ahead right now and take all of our Dragon Ball friends here out of the boxes and get a closer look at them from all angles. Alright, and here's our 3 figures from the Dragon Ball Super superhero movie from Bandai. I have over here on the left Gamma 1, in the middle Goku, and then on the right Piccolo. So let's go ahead and give a quick look at all 3 of these guys together before I take them one by one and give you my thoughts on them each. I don't really have much of anything bad to say about them already. And quite honestly, looking at Bandai figures in the past, I've really not been too critical, and I haven't really needed to be too critical about them because, well, frankly, they're just really good figures. I mean, yeah, I've always enjoyed them. I always enjoy what Bandai does with them. It's always a very strong line, and I feel like this is going to be no different. So, yeah, just so you can see, again, I have them all next to each other, although Gamma 1 and Piccolo are a little bit further back than Goku. But they're all basically, similar heights as you can see here. I don't really think anybody is taller than the other. Now, for anybody out there who's like a stickler for that kind of things, you can let me know in the comments if everybody's heights are accurate, or at least accurate enough to get the job done. But this is what we have today to take a look at, our 3 figures. So let's go ahead and take a look at them one by one now. And I think I want to start with Goku, because Goku is, of course, the classic. He's the first one we've always had to look at. He's our lead, so why the heck not? So Goku here is basically your classic Goku. There's nothing really too fancy or different or special about him. Goku is kind of like, the John Cena of these figures in a way, and what I mean by that is, like, you're going to always get a Goku figure in pretty much all these waves. It's going to either be a Goku or a Vegeta. So really, there's not too many different things here with this figure that we haven't seen before. If anything, I'd say mainly the paint is going to be a little bit different, and that just really might be the color of orange that they're using it for, or the color of the blue. But I really feel like it's the color of the orange here. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit maybe more muted, perhaps. A little bit less red in it, too. It's a little bit less warm, which is weird. It's still a warm color, but you guys know basically what Goku looks like. So I feel like these colors are a little bit different. And that really is the difference maker with the classic characters you're going to see with these figures, is that for the most part, they're all basically, again, similar design, no real changes in the sculpts or anything like that. But what's going to be different is some of the colors, because the colors in the film are also slightly altered to what we're used to seeing in the anime. So yeah, Goku is great. He's got a good likeness as always too. Let's just zoom in a little bit more so you can get that upper body. Goku very simple character to do. Not really much I could really like nitpick about even if I wanted to. That hair is, of course, signature crazy wild giant Goku hair. We've got his belt on, and I'm going to just scroll down for a second there, because the cool thing I found out actually you can do with these toys, if you weren't aware, is they're kind of sort of modular, whether you realize it or not. They actually can snap off, and you can put them back together. I don't know if that's meant to be that way, but all the Bandai figures, generally speaking, have fairly exposed joints. They're not trying to hide any of that, so that does mean you've got a little bit of wiggle room when it comes to like very basic customizations, if that's something that matters to you. So in other words, if you want to start swapping joints out and changing pieces around, you can do that very easily, and you can make your own Dragon Ball character very quickly. So Goku here, let's talk about his articulation, and they're all going to share the same articulation, but I think Goku's going to probably have the best among everybody just because of how his character is. You've got ball-jointed heads, you've got ball-jointed shoulders, you've got a good bicep swivel, we have double-jointed elbows, so you can do a Goku elbow drop. You got double-jointed elbows here. You have wrists that can rotate. They don't flex, but they do rotate. Our waist, very flexible here, can move around, and it's also ball-jointed a little bit, so you got a good range of wiggle there. Flexibility in the legs is excellent. I was actually a little bit worried about that. But no, you can get good kicks. And the reason I was worried is because I've looked at a few other figures where sometimes the articulation in the legs was difficult, but Goku, they got it down perfect for, so no issues there. The knees are double jointed, which is funny because he has these giant, I want to call them parachute pants. They're not parachute pants, but to me they are. But he has these giant pants, but you can still bend his knees pretty decent. There you go. You can get some good kicking action with these, so that's actually really great. The boots, well, the boots don't rotate at the cuff, but they do rotate at the ankle, so you got some good ankle articulation there. So, what's one of the things, I also should mention here, they do have I think it's called the floating hips, which is basically, you can see here, that's how you got the better range of motion. His hips are currently elevated. If I just then push the legs up a little bit, he can now just hold his stance a little bit better. So that's a really cool feature. You've seen in a lot more toys these days is that floating hip feature, and it offers a lot more range of flexibility and articulation. And quite honestly, that's always one of the things I appreciated about the Bandai figures, is the fact that they were always very playable. One of my favorite toys as a kid growing up would have been the Ultimate Muscle figures that Bandai did. And this is way, way long time ago. They had amazing articulation. They were just so fun, and they kind of fit in with my wrestling toys too, so it was a perfect fit. But, likewise here, these don't quite have the exact same articulation, but it's still very strong. And, as much as the joints are very exposed, I don't mind, because I think these figures are meant to be posed and played with in some ways. Like, this really is kind of a perfect combination of adult collectible and kid-friendly product. So that's Goku. But that's not all Goku, because Goku also has some accessories. And this Goku comes with an additional pair of hands. These are his Kamehameha hands. So let's go ahead and we'll do a quick swap right now, see how that looks, and we'll just show you how easy, hopefully in theory, how easy this is to do the swaparoo. So let's get this hand in, and now we'll get this one over here. And the hands are always like fairly easy to get. You hear the snap right there. So there you go. So this is our fireball hand, our Kamehameha, and because he does have the double jointed elbows, he actually can kind of pull back and get in the position for it. Now, the face on this Goku is fairly neutral, so if you want something more expressive, that's going to be a different figure out there. But at the very least, you're still getting that Kamehameha, so there you go. Now, if you wanted to actually put a fireball in his hand, that would be a different line altogether. That would be Bandai's a more elite style, if you will. These are basically elite, their articulation, but the way the series goes is there's Dragon Ball Evolution, that's a $10 figure. They have no accessories, it's just basically the same figure you see here. You then have the next level up, which would be like the Dragon Stars. That's what this one here is from. So they get a few accessories usually. And then right above that, you have what I guess we really should call their Ultimate style figure. And that's the one that has all the power beams and the power-up effects. So if you want to get something like that, that's out there also. But as far as like an affordable Goku goes, there you go. So one additional pair of hands, and you're ready to go, whether it's posing or playing. So that's Goku. Let's move on now to our next character. That's going to be Gamma 1 over here. So Gamma 1 is a new character that's introduced in the Dragon Ball Super superhero movie. Gamma 1 and his brother Gamma 2, are they heroes? Are they bad guys? Who are they? What's the mystery behind them? Well, watch the movie, you'll find out. So I really just like the looks of these characters. They're both really cool. You know, these guys are made by the Red Ribbon Army, and they share some similar elements to the designs we saw with previous characters like that, like the previous androids. But Gamma 1 and Gamma 2 are really their own special thing, and I just love the look of them. I mean, the cape, of course, is an excellent touch. You can't be a superhero without a cape, obviously. But, you know, I like the shapes of their heads. I like the outfit they wear especially. It almost kind of reminds you a little bit of like Rocketeer in some ways, just because of the puffy pants, I guess. But they've got really cool outfits, good color design, and they just look excellent as toys. Really, there's no denying that here at all. Like, they just look good as toys. You know, if anything, it kind of reminds me, if you're familiar with Cyborg 009. That was a great manga that became an anime several times over. Definitely recommend watching that one if you've never seen Cyborg 009 before. There's definitely got to be some influence there with that character. But here's a little closer look at Gamma 1, and you can just see, you know, again, what we're talking about here with that look, the detail on him. Gamma 1, this is going to probably be your only way to get this character, I would assume. I don't think they're going to make too many more of him, although here's hoping they continue this line to give us Gamma 2. But yeah, Gamma 1 is here, and looking really good. I like this head sculpt as well. Really cool sculpt on this. Nice detail, and you know, I didn't really mention this before either, but really all the Bandai figures, you're never going to have problems with like paint application. They're always very clean paint app, and you can see here, this is a good example. Now, granted, all the Dragon Ball characters tend to be more simplistic in their looks and their aesthetics, so there's not going to be tons of little tiny things to worry about, but I've never really seen an issue with the paint ever on all the many Bandai figures I've owned. This one here, no exception, so looks mighty fine, and glad to see it. Now, as far as articulation goes, Gamma 1 is going to be a little bit different than what we saw with Goku. So he's got really great arm articulation. I mean, this is like him getting ready for his Tinder profile. But he's got some excellent articulation here. The head, also ball jointed. Shoulders, ball jointed. You've got the bicep swivel here, which Goku had, but it's a little bit different here because Goku had bigger arms. Gamma 1 has smaller arms. We still have double jointed elbows. We still have the wrists that can bend and flex. Goku's did kind of flex a little bit. It was hard to show you on camera. I mean, I said it didn't, but it kind of did a little bit, just not amazingly. You still have a waist that can move. I'm actually happy to see that. I was a little worried he was going to suffer. And yeah, his waist also pops right out. We can put that back in place though, no big deal. And then the legs, that's where you run into a few problems here, because unfortunately he does have this sort of skirt thing. I mean, he has got a longer coat, so you can't really do high kicks. You still do have double jointed knees and the same ankle articulation, but you're not going to be able to do much in terms of kicks just because of the way his outfit is. So, you know, that part is unfortunate, but what can you do about it? But Gamma 1 also has a few additional accessories to talk about here, just like Goku, and that includes an additional pair of hands. These are open fists this time. We'll see why we have those in a second. Well, actually, you'll see why right now, because they fit his other accessory here. This is his blaster. And yes, we're going to find out right now that blaster fits into his holster. I would assume that it would. And there you go, perfect fit. So we do have a blaster, fits in the holster. Let's just do a quick hand swap just to make sure he can at least hold it in the very least, at least one of his hands here. Let's do that right now. Hopefully it's just as easy as Goku was, if not easier. There we go. Okay, yeah, not too bad. Let's see if we can get that blaster in there now to go with it. All right, so after a little bit of work that I had to do off camera, which basically included me heating up the joints a little bit, I was able to get the gun in his other hand, not the hand you saw me do the swap with. So I had to do another swap off camera because, yeah, this other trigger finger here, it's very small. It doesn't really fit the weapon that easily. So I had to swap hands because that other hand seemed to be a little bit bigger. And after some amount of work and fussing with it, I got it to fit. So that's how it looks. Here it is in his hands. And I will admit now that it's in his hands, it's a really cool looking blaster. I mean, it's got some great detail on it as well. Simple color scheme. It looks good in his hand too, but like I said, it did take a little bit of work to get it in there. So I recommend if you want it there, heat up the joints with a hairdryer for a few minutes to get it looser. And then this way you can pry the fingers open and work the gun in there until it gets the way it's supposed to be. But, you know, and eventually it does fit in there and it looks good. So, you know, all that work was definitely worth it. So that's Gamma 1. This is a really cool figure. It's really cool. I would say it's my favorite in the line. But unfortunately for Gamma 1, we have one other figure to talk about. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the last figure in this wave right now. And finally, here is Piccolo. He is the third figure in this wave. And I said he's one of my favorites in this line because, well, he is. Piccolo is just one of those like underrated toy characters, I feel like. You know, as far as like power goes in DBZ, he's arguably one of the strongest in there as far as like the main core crew members. But as far as toys go, I think Piccolo is one of those real underrated characters who is incredibly toyetic. And I always jump at the occasion to get more Piccolo merchandise because he's just so cool looking. I mean, look at this cape, for crying out loud. This cape is amazing. I love the giant silly Namekian shoulder pads, his turban thing, his pants, his colors, of course, are amazing. Everything about this guy, he just screams action figure. So yeah, this is definitely one of the best ones, and you'll see why as we continue to talk about this figure. So, you know, with Piccolo, his likeness is one of those big key things that you got to get right here. And I think they also nailed that likeness. I mean, you can see it, you know, here as we get a little bit closer into Piccolo. He's got a pretty distinctive look and a pretty distinctive face, and they got it. They definitely got the Piccolo look right there. Screams Piccolo to me. I'm very happy with how this came out. Likewise, very clean paint job on his face as well. There's no slop from his turban, no slop from anywhere else. And as we kind of scroll down and look at the rest of his body, you'll see same thing, you know, likewise. No slop here, like we've seen with all the figures. It's all very clean, well-executed paint job. No complaints here from me about this at all. Now, this being the superhero version, I think the main difference between this and like maybe other Piccolos you'd see is, again, going to be the colors of Piccolo. I feel like his ridge sections over here would be different color otherwise. So that might be the one difference. I don't think it's too big of a difference, though. It's very subtle, so it's not really anything to really write home about. Now, articulation is probably the one area where Piccolo may suffer a little bit, and unfortunately that's because he has this giant cape here. But, you know, with the cape on, you lose a little bit of articulation in the shoulders, but hey, good news, you guys. The cape does, in fact, come off. And you could take his head off if you wanted to. In fact, I'll do that right now, just to show you. Yeah, you can easily pop the head off, and the cape is now off of him. Slide that out of the way. And now you've basically got complete range of articulation, just as good as Goku. I'm not going to do it again, but trust me, it's just as good as Goku, because it's basically the exact same body now, really, if you look at it. The only difference is just the arms have some extra stuff on them, but otherwise, same exact body, so same amount of joints, double jointed knees, so everything's there, it's all good. But really, I think the big key for why I like Piccolo the most is really just the number of accessories he has. And you already saw right here the cape that he has, and yes, I'm counting that as part of his accessories because it is a removable thing from him. So the cape is one epic accessory, but in addition to that, he also gets a set of 3 additional hands for 5 hands total, making him the figure with the most hands in this wave, and that also means he got the most accessories. And these are some very good hands here. So we do have, again, similar to what Goku has, the same sort of power-up fireball Kamehameha hands, although he doesn't exactly do that. He has his own special attacks. But we get those 2 hands in green, and we also get the classic Piccolo green extended fingers, these 2 here, which that's what I'm going to swap out right now, I think, just to show you guys how that's going to look on him. Since you already saw the power-up hands, let's get the classic Piccolo hands in there now. And there we go. So as far as like getting him to actually do it onto his like head, for example, that's a little hard because he's maybe not quite as flexible, I guess, after all, in the bicep section. Like, this is as far as that will go, and that might be due to the fact to the extra sculpted bits here on his biceps. But, I mean, otherwise you can still kind of do the power blast if you want, shooting through his fingers, I suppose. It's still more or less there, but I appreciate the fact that they have the extra hands, that his cape section is removable. So, you know, I think Piccolo is going to be one of those very underrated figures, and I know there's a lot of Piccolo fans out there, so if you don't have a figure of him, I'd say this is the one to get, especially as far as like affordability goes. So that's our solo look at Piccolo. Let's just get all 3 of our guys back together to do my final wrap-up on all of them. Alright, so here's all 3 of our figures now together, and overall, again, you know, I'm never really disappointed by Bandai figures, and especially the Dragon Ball, the Dragon Stars lines, and the stuff they've done here. I've always been really impressed by it. I think they do an excellent job with this license. Heck, that's why they've had this license for so many years. And these are excellent figures too. You know, again, for the most part, we're looking at Goku. He's had a lot of figures, so it's not a big deal. Piccolo is somebody who's had not quite as many, so definitely jump at his chance to get it. And this is Gamma 1's debut in the series, so you're getting some good figures off the bat. And, you know, they're great figures. If you don't have any Dragon Ball figures, this is the way to do it. I mean, I know there's other companies out there that are doing them. I'm not going to mention their names, but I know there's a few more higher-end companies that are doing these figures, and they are super articulated. They come with other heads and that kind of thing. They're imports, and you can really only find them online or in specialty stores, and they're going to cost you a lot more, like easily 3 to 4 times more than the price of these Bandai figures right here. Now, I mean, one is definitely, if you want to say better than the other, I don't want to use the word better, but yeah, one is definitely going to be a little more detailed than the other because you're paying for that detail with the extra price point. But as far as like affordability and more importantly as far as playability goes, this is the way to go. These Bandai figures are excellent. And, you know, I said it earlier in this review, but I very much feel like these are like the perfect pairing of affordability, playability, and collectability. Because, if you're someone out there who likes Dragon Ball, likes Dragon Ball Z, and likes the entire Dragon Ball universe, you're going to have to spend a lot of money to get those more fancy figures, but you could just get these and they're going to definitely scratch that itch. And more importantly, if you're a little kid or you have a kid who wants to play with these toys, this is the best way to do it. Because I would imagine that parents aren't going to want their kids playing with a $60, $70 action figure. So, spending 20 bucks or less, that's usually how much these things go for. You're getting a good deal here. If you find these in stores, they will be about 20 bucks. If you get them online, oftentimes you can get them a little bit cheaper. And speaking of, if you guys want to pick up any of these figures that you saw in this video today, I do have some Amazon affiliate links in the description of this video below. If you click on those links and purchase these or anything else from Amazon, it helps support this YouTube channel at no extra cost to you. So I definitely recommend doing it that way, especially because Amazon constantly has some really good sales on the Dragon Ball figures, so you can't go wrong if you want to do it that way. So again, these figures come from me with a high recommendation, and if you don't believe me, go back and look in my archives at all the other videos I've done of Bandai anime figures. That includes DBZ and others from the Anime Heroes line. I'm never disappointed with them. I always love them. I think they're really, really great. And I really do believe a lot of collectors ignore these figures for whatever reason. Maybe because they're just in the stores, maybe there's not a lot of anime fans on my channel, I don't know, but I always feel like I don't see enough people talking about these, and really more people should. So I definitely recommend you guys check these out. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys here next time.